Welcome back. Feels good. Like, comment, subscribe. We're listen, everybody goes ahead after the draft and starts just pumping away with takes and what people think. Like, we sat back for the last like week and a half, 2 weeks, digested everything, and we're gonna just give you some winners and losers that we have from the 2025 NFL draft. Do you want to start first or second? And do you want to start with our winners or do you want to start with our losers?
Let's start with the winners. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, I was ready to go first with a loser.
All right, then we'll start with the losers. Start
You,
start us off.
you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
My biggest loser of the 2025 NFL draft is the Chicago Bears. And I think that immediately shock factor impact, hearing that is going to be like, why? Like, why do you think this? I absolutely hate the way that they attacked this draft because it feels like Ryan Pohl's idea of building a team is based in a fantasy world. And even if the team that he's trying to copy what they're doing, and I'm saying the Lions because that's where Ben Johnson is from, I think that what we have seen over the last few years is one, the Lions have an incredible running game, which I don't think the Bears are going to be able to replicate in any way, shape, or form. They don't have the offensive line and they don't have the running back room.
Yeah.
But the second thing that really sticks out to me is that the Lions haven't won shit. They are a great regular season football team, but when it comes down to the playoffs and they need to win the must win game, they cannot get it done. So, why would you base anything that you do off of a team that has not been truly the ultimate sign of success in the NFL, which is winning a Super Bowl? They just haven't done it. I think going into this, they needed edge rusher, they needed D line, and they needed offensive line. And then with their first two picks of the NFL draft, they grabbed Colson Loveland, which it felt like he was the second tight end on the board for a lot of teams behind Tyler Warren. And on top of that, this was such a deep tight end draft. I don't think that it made a ton of sense to take Colston Loveland at 10 and just been like, yeah, that's it. Even when Brock Bowers got drafted, he was a generational can't miss type of prospect. I think Colston Loveland's like profile on who he is as a player is that like he's pretty much like untapped and they haven't used him in the way that they are supposed to at Michigan and you're supposed to be able to get something out of him. So I don't really love that pick, especially at 10. And then at 39 with their second pick, they got Luther Burden the third. I mean, this was a guy who was supposed to be a first round talent who ultimately ended up falling to them in the second round. And the reason why I don't like the Luther Burden pick is not because I don't think he's going to be a decent player, but you're telling me they traded for DJ Moore a few years ago and paid him the bag. You're telling me that they took a top 10 wide receiver last year in Roma Dunze, and then this year they're going to bring in another wide receiver within the top 2 rounds. I just felt like that was a position that they probably could have waited off on, like if they really needed a wide receiver. And also the same thing as Luther Burden. Luther Burden's comp for a lot of people was just DJ Moore. So I don't like that they have kind of the guys doing the same exact thing in their wide receiver room. And like I said, this Chicago Bears experience, a lot of the reasons why I'm so hesitant on this is because time after time after time, Poles gets me excited for going into a season and he always strikes out. And this has the literally all the recipe for this not working. And ultimately at the end of the day, there is literally one ball. And it feels like they had two things that they needed to address in this draft. And that was O-line and D-line, build up the trenches. And they obviously did that in like the fourth, fifth, sixth round, but you're asking a lot of guys who get taken in the fifth and sixth round to step up and be immediate impact players year one for you. I think that's
They,
unrealistic.
they also addressed their offensive line in the free agency period. So I think that's taken into account. But if we're just judging based off of like
I mean, they
the
took a
the guys that they
tackle and
took,
a guard. They took a tackle and a guard in this draft.
I know. I'm looking at their draft picks right now. They
Yeah.
took a tackle in the second round and a guard in the sixth round.
Mhm.
But I think with the amount of people they brought in on the off, I think they brought in 3 offensive linemen that are like 2 or 3 that are coming in and expected to start. So if anything, those guys are probably just like projects slash depth pieces. But
Well,
um,
the guys that you're thinking that they brought in is Joe Thuney. I obviously think that he should be good. There's no reason to. And Jonah
yeah,
Jackson, who got benched
it was bad.
by the
Yeah,
Rams. And other than that, I mean, I don't love their offensive line in any way, shape, or form. That seemed like
yeah,
something that still needed to be addressed. I think, like maybe with a top 10 pick, like with your brand
yeah.
new rookie quarterback, you have Cole Kmet already. I'm not saying Cole Kmet's a world beater, but I also
He's
don't
good
think
enough to fit in that offense.
I don't think that it was a absolute necessity to take tight end at 10.
No, I agree. I think that it was probably too early for them to take a tight end. And honestly, at 10, that felt like a spot where they could have potentially even traded back. But it's set in stone now. And I do agree with you. I didn't love their draft from as a whole. So yeah, I agree with you there.
Even like you look at some of the linemen that were taken like after Colson Loveland. I mean, right after 2 picks after the Cowboys take Tyler Booker.
He would
Gray,
have been great. He would have been great to have on that offensive line.
Gray Zabel, Josh Connerly, Josh Simmons, like there were still guys on the board, and maybe that was too high to take them at 10, but I love that little add-in that you had when maybe Kelvin Banks Jr., Membu, and Will Campbell fell off the board. Maybe that should have been a spot where Poles was like, okay, like we should probably trade back at this point and we'll be able to get good value and also probably get a player similar to what we'd be able to get at 10.
Like they didn't need Colson Loveland. Like I don't think Cole Kmet's bad as like a
No.
bad tight end by any means. He just hasn't had like that offense was just so dysfunctional last season that like they need to get that figured out. And I don't think drafting an offensive lineman in the earlier round with this pick would have hurt.
So it sounds like me and you are on the same page with this.
It almost feels like the Colston Loveland pick was this is a luxury pick for us when they don't live a luxurious life.
Yeah. It was just so weird. Everybody was like, oh, like Ben Johnson got his Sam Laporta. It was like,
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
it's like, what? Like, you're acting like Sam Laporta. Like, Sam Laporta is a good player, but I mean, like, Sam Laporta is not like a Trey McBride or like a Brock Bowers. So I didn't really get that explanation there. And also, I think Sam Laporta was a second or third round pick, if I remember correctly. So, again, it's just a little interesting. Do you want to go with your first loser or yeah, let's stay with losers right now.
Sam Laporta was drafted with the 34th pick.
So second round.
Yep. So my first loser is the Miami Dolphins.
Wow.
Honestly, it just feels like everything that they do is not going to work. I think they should have addressed the secondary, and they didn't end up taking any secondary players until the 5th round. I think they already had a pretty decent defensive line, and 2 of their first 3 picks were D tackles. They drafted 1 offensive lineman, and I think that their offensive line struggled last year to keep Tua healthy and to keep him protected. And I feel like they just did not do a good enough job of addressing secondary and O-line, which are 2 spots that I think they should have addressed. Their first pick was Kenneth Grant, and then they took a guard from Arizona. They took 3 defensive tackles in this draft. They took a corner and they took a quarterback. This was the Quinn Ewers team.
I'm looking at who they have as like their D line, and they have like Chop Robinson, Jordan Phillips, Benito Jones. Like I think
Like
that
it's feasible. It's fine.
I think going into this draft, though, their biggest need was to definitely get somebody on the defensive line. I think, but I'm with you completely that Tua's brain gets crushed every single year. Like, you should probably take an offensive lineman. I'm
And
with you on this.
they did address the offensive line in free agency, but I don't know. I just on a team like that when you need to protect your star quarterback, drafting three defensive tackles probably doesn't. I don't know. That doesn't align with what I would be thinking if I was the Dolphins front office. And
Yeah,
then,
I
like I said,
completely understand.
no secondary help. Like Jalen Ramsey's another year older. He's still great, but like, who's in that secondary? Oh, they did trade for no Javon Holland's on the wait. Who
Giants.
did Giants? So they lost him. That's what we said when we were going through the Dolphins pre-draft breakdown was a secondary player, and they took Jason Marshall, a corner out of Florida, in the 5th round, and then they took Dante Trader Jr., a safety out of Maryland, in the 5th round. So I feel like they could have addressed the secondary a little earlier.
Completely respect that. Do you have anything else that you want to add about them, or should I go on?
Nope, go ahead.
The next team that I have on my list here, and I won't be as long as I was for the first one, I have the Philadelphia Eagles, which it seems like at this point, um, everybody can do no wrong. The Eagles can do no wrong, but I just think that what they didn't really attack where I thought that they needed to attack. I felt like probably going into this draft, they needed edge rusher and they needed D tackle. And the reason I say D tackle is because I think Jordan Davis, even though they have picked up his 5th year option, I'd be absolutely shocked if that's somebody who they signed to a long term contract after this 5th year. He's been, I think it's, I think it's probably fair to say a pretty big disappointment from where he was, kind of what he was projected to be to who he is. Ultimately, they have one of the best players in the NFL in that interior. But again, you're picking at the back half of the draft. That could have been an opportunity to get somebody decent back there, and who knows who it was. And then I know that Jahad Campbell gets drafted, and every single Eagles fan is like, well, he's a edge rusher and a inside linebacker, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. I don't care what position he is. Anybody that it's prefaced that he just had shoulder surgery and he's going to need another shoulder surgery and his knees messed up, I'm out on that. Especially felt like how he wanted to go and trade up for him. I saw a video of it. Still a little confused on why that's the guy that they had their sights set on. I mean, it is what it is. And then Andrew Muck Makuka, how do you say his name?
Makuba.
I think he's a decent player. I think that he has been like extremely gassed up. And I think that that has a little bit to do with the landing spot that he has gone to. Like, hey, like the Eagles have a good culture. Like, if there's anybody that can make him pop, it's probably the Eagles. But I'm probably going to be on the side of like watching that play out before anything else. Other than that, like the Eagles obviously are the most complete roster in the NFL. But going into this draft, I think that they need a backup running back because if Saquon, God forbid, goes down, I know that we had a disagreement on this the other day, but God forbid Saquon goes down, their running back room is extremely bleak. I don't think you want Will Shipley taking a lot of the workload in any way, shape, or form. And I felt like in a running back rich draft, this could have been an opportunity to grab somebody in the 3rd, 4th round and just have somebody back up Saquon and be safe. Another thing is I think that wide receiver 3 spot for them is something that is a point of interest and want to get it figured out at some point. And I think Jahad Dotson was a little bit of a disappointment. I think that could have been somebody that they could have targeted in the middle rounds as well. There's a lot of names out there who I think could have crushed with the Eagles, specifically the 2 guys from Iowa State. I was like, well, if they get one of those guys, it might not be fair. Um, but that's pretty much the only. I don't hate anybody that they drafted at all. I just felt like they probably have a bunch of good players on here who are going to play for them, but I felt like that they could have probably attacked it in a different way and filled some of those gaps on the roster.
Yeah, the Jahad Campbell injuries are concerning. I agree with you. I would have loved to see them take a legitimate edge as well. Um,
Especially with all of them in the draft.
Andrew Makuba has been already like comped to CJ Gardner Johnson and that is good, but it also worries me because the times that CJ Gardner-Johnson was on the Eagles, they made the Super Bowl both times. But there was a learning curve with him, um, and he takes just some stupid risks. So, and I don't know enough about Andrew Makuba um, to necessarily compare him here or there to CJ Gardner Johnson. The wide receiver 3 thing I go back and forth on. I don't even think like it almost feels like that position just doesn't matter to the Eagles offense.
It doesn't matter to the offense, but it matters to the team because that's a position that they're constantly trying to figure out. It feels like. I mean, they spend
Yeah,
resources on it from a draft perspective, from trading draft picks, and then also signing free agents. It's something that they are trying to get like more rounded out.
agreed. But as we see the season progress, the wide receiver 3 almost doesn't even matter based off of having 2 extremely great wide receivers ahead of him, the best running back in the NFL, and then they just restructured Dallas Goedert, which I would have loved to see them take a tight end too, because Dallas Goedert is getting towards the end of his probably he's already at the back end of his prime at this point, and there was already rumors around the fact that they were going to try and move on from him.
I agree with
So
you on that too.
I would have liked to see them go take a tight end here at some point. They have a ton of draft capital, albeit the back half of the draft. Um, but yeah, there's a couple things that I would have liked to see them approach differently. But I do agree with you. Like the list of players that they have, I like, but um, there's things that I wish they would have done differently as well. And
What
I
do
will
you
say this: like, it is nice to see everybody to see majority of football be like, "Oh, Eagles got this guy. It's over." But in the back of my head, there is always just like hesitation because I can't get over the fact that Howie took Jalen Rager over Justin Jefferson.
completely? Yeah, I completely agree. And real quick, just to a few questions. Like, do you think that my assessment of Jordan Davis was fair?
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah. Yes, I wanted to say something about that too. He's been one of the best defensive tackles from a run stopping perspective, but when you draft a guy and you trade up to draft, I believe they traded up to draft him at like 15.
yeah.
You expect him to be a complete defensive tackle,
Yeah, I thought he was going to be a menace.
and he has not been. He's been phenomenal run stopping, but they take him out on pass rushing downs. He has a great opportunity this season to build on what he did in the playoffs. But yes, he is a guy that I don't think will be an Eagle at the end of this season.
My last question to you, and then we can go on to your next team is obviously said if Saquon Barkley goes down, God forbid, like not like wishing injury on him in any way, shape, or form, but just hypothetically, if he misses a 4-game stretch, like, do you think that that running back room is pretty bleak, or do you think that it's fine as constructed?
I'm not opposed to Will Shipley. I do want to see if that is a spot where, like, heading into camp, they end up addressing. I forget who they have behind him.
AJ Dillon.
Oh yeah, that's right. Um,
It's a bad room. Besides, I mean, Saquon's the best,
yeah. So it's
but
such a drop off.
it's a bad room when
Yeah,
Saquon's not in it. Like,
yeah. That's fair. Um, but I think you have the best of like both worlds with Saquon, and then you will just have to figure out as a offense like utilizing AJ Dillon and Will Shipley because they both can't they're both not good at what the other person is good at. So like it'll have to be by committee. It's not just
yeah,
going to be Will Shipley getting all the touches
it
there.
will always be by
But yeah,
committee. I agree with that. I just thought that, running, like, bro, there were running backs
yeah,
that
it
were
wouldn't hurt
going.
at all.
There
Yeah.
was running backs going late. Like, if there was ever time to just like be like, you know what, let's just take a dart throw at a running back and like see what happens. Like, we have Saquon, maybe he can flourish. Saquon at the end of the day is 28 years old.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, like, we know how quick a running back could potentially fall off, and I just felt like that could have been a good opportunity for them. But yeah,
Yeah.
so the Eagles is one of
I
my losers.
I wouldn't have hated it. My Other loser here. My second one is the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
So I will base this off of about 3 picks because I won't sit here and act like I know who the rest of these guys are.
Okay.
I said from the beginning that I didn't think them taking Matthew Golden was a good idea, and they took Matthew Golden with their first pick, the first running back or the first wide receiver that they've taken in the first round in however long. Um, I think that he is a good prospect, a good wide receiver prospect, but I'm not necessarily sold on him going out there and being the number one for the Green Bay Packers when they need a number one wide receiver. I feel like he just kind of blends in with the rest of the guys that they have in that room. So I don't
So
love
my
that.
first question before you carry on is Matthew Golden was considered by, I'd say that there was a 50-50 break in the league of people who thought Matthew Golden was wide receiver one and people who thought Ted McMillan was wide receiver one. What is your stance on that there is a very large group of teams in the NFL who had him on their board as wide receiver one?
There was 3, 1 or 2.5 good wide receivers in this first round. And one is, well, I say half because Travis Hunter's playing defense too, but I think he was the best, and then I think Tet was the best. I just don't think that this wide receiver group coming out was extraordinary.
Okay, but if you think what's his name was the best, Travis Hunter, there were majority of the NFL who thought that Matthew Golden was a better wide receiver prospect than him.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know more than the NFL,
Okay,
but
I'm just
from
asking
watching Travis Hunter, I thought he was incredible.
because I'm on the complete opposite side of the spectrum on this. I have Green Bay Packers one of my winners of the draft.
Yeah, I just don't love that pick for them.
What do you think would have been a better pick for them at that point?
I would have liked them to go secondary. They're basically missing a starting corner. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Who gets hurt all the time?
Jair Alexander. He is still going to be on their team next year.
Right, but I would have loved for them to take somebody so they could move on from him. I don't think he's healthy enough to play a full season anymore. He always gets hurt, and
completely agree.
I feel like they would have found more value taking a corner than taking a wide receiver that what I think blends in with the rest of that wide receiver room.
So real quick, in the just to play devil's advocate a little bit, you said that there were 2.5 good wide receivers. In the first round, there were 3 corners taken.
Yeah.
And Maxwell Harrison was one, Travis Hunter was one, and Jahdae Barron was one. I mean, those are the only players that were taken in the secondary of this draft. So at that point, you would have had to, I think where they were at in the draft, I felt it was like a perfect, healthy mix of Matthew Golden has fallen to us. And I don't think that there was a better option on the board for them at that time of somebody who they could have taken.
That's fair. I'm not going to argue that point from a value perspective, but from a player or from a need perspective, I don't love it.
I am very much of the belief that the Green Bay Packers needed a guy who's different in their wide receiver room. And I think Matthew Golden's one of those guys. I mean, it's obvious that what's his name's not going to be playing. Christian Watson's not going to be playing this year because he tore his ACL towards the end of the season. Obviously, that plays a role into this. And then ultimately, I think one of their other guys, when you talk about I don't know, maybe like a Romeo Doubs or who's the other guy that was on their team?
Wicks.
Dontavian Wicks. I think those guys are very much open for.
Jaden Reed.
No, I think Jaden Reed will stay. I think he's probably a gadget guy for them. I was talking about Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs. I feel like are very much available on the market right now. And if they can move on from one of those guys, I don't think it'd be the end of the world. But I think that they needed to actually take a real shot at a top 32 wide receiver, which they haven't done in
True.
forever.
But I don't.
You heard the owner when he walked out and did the pick. He was like, "It's going to make a lot of people happy that we do this." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was finally at that time, perfect storm, that they went out and took a wide receiver in the first round.
But was it I mean, obviously they liked him and they thought he was probably ranked. They probably had him as their number one receiver and they were probably thrilled to take him. But in a wide receiver class, was this the year that you take a wide receiver when you had to break that streak? Not for me personally, but I guess the Packers thought differently. So we'll agree to disagree on the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I mean, you could have taken a Mecca Ibuka went over him. So it is what it is.
It is.
Okay, so that knocks out one of my winners. That knocks out one of your losers. It sounds like I am on the clock.
Yep.
I have a few losers left. I'm just going to go one more. I have Broncos. I'm just going to highlight these real quick. I have the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos did nothing. They needed skill positions. It didn't get any skill positions. They got Jahdae Barron, who's a true nickel. He's not an outside corner. And I felt like that McMillan really crushed for them last season. And to put him at a outside corner role, I feel like kind of diminishes the reason of what makes him great. And so I'll be interested to see how they utilize him. But I felt like that was a bad pick at that time. Texans, the Jaden Higgins and Jalen Hill pick. Sorry. I mean, those guys' comps going into the NFL were Christian Kirk and Nico Collins. So it's like they
took their younger version.
They took the same guys, and I don't know. I just think that they needed more help along the offensive line, and I also think that
they did take a tackle.
Yeah, they took one tackle, and that's fine. And in the top, where I felt like that kid from Minnesota, who I think will be decent. But still, it felt like them trading back. It should have been an opportunity for them to take best tackle available on the board and not trade back. It is what it is. And then obviously, I just think Joe Mixon's getting a little older. I felt like this would have been another team in a very deep running back class that they could have gotten their hands on another talented running back. So
you don't like the Woody Marks pick?
No.
He's just like he felt like a very like I'm trying to think of who would be like a good guy to compare him to.
He's not going to play for them. He's going to be a special teamer for them.
He's like pass heavy. Like, all right, we've got 3rd and 20. We're putting Woody in because we're 100% throwing the football.
100%.
Yeah, he had like a crazy amount of receptions, I'm pretty sure, in college for a running back.
But the last team that I really want to highlight real quick, and I'd be shocked if this wasn't one of your teams, and that is the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns literally went from having maybe one of the most intriguing, exciting drafts that you can remember when they went back, traded out of 2 and grabbed all these picks and then grabbed Mason Graham, who's probably best available on the board. You're like, oh my gosh, like, are they crushing? They're crushing this draft.
Yeah.
Then they go on and they take Carson Schweiger from an off-ball linebacker from UCLA at 33. Then they take Quinshon Judkins at 36. Then they take Harold Fanning Jr. from Bowling Green. Then they go Dylan Gabriel, quarterback. Then they go Dylan Sampson, running back, who I actually like, who's probably going to play like slot receiver and running back. And then they go and then they take Shedeur Sanders with their last pick of the draft. Just based off of how their roster is constructed currently and their running and their quarterback room, they should have taken. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They had 7 picks. They should have used all of those 7 picks for everything else other than those quarterbacks. Dylan Gabriel is not going to be good, and Shedeur Sanders isn't going to be good. So there's no reason to sit around and act like that those were good picks. Those were pretty much throwaways at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. The whole, I mean, did you realistically think Shedeur would be drafted 5th round?
No, I'm not joking around. I famously came on here before everything happened on the draft and just thought that everything that was surrounding Shedeur was just cap because
we see it every year. We see so much smoke about about quarterbacks, especially every single year.
It wasn't even that. I think it was perfect storm. Last year when Caleb Williams was coming out, there were people who were like legitimately attacking every single thing about Caleb Williams, down to like his manhood and like
Yeah, that was. Oh,
like
he had a pink iPhone.
his like sexuality and like legitimately attacking every single thing about this guy's character, and he still ended up ultimately going one. And for me, it felt like a similar situation as that, only with Shador, and it was like about stuff completely different.
Yeah.
Ultimately what it came down to though was I use everybody who gets so fired up. I was the king of engagement on draft day with the Shador Sanders stuff. Ultimately what it comes down to is if me and you walk into a job that makes 50 grand a year and sit down and do an interview and act like a fucking jackass, we're not going to get the job.
Right.
So
Even no matter how qualified we are.
If you walk into a building and you're already iffy based on some of the tape, and it seems like I was with some guys who worked in the NFL this past weekend. It sounds like that they were kind of fine with the tape. It wasn't the tape that was the problem. It was kind of everything else. They're like, the tape's okay. I mean, it's not like top 5 type tape, but like, it's not 5th round tape. It's just the fact that there were a few teams that he fit the mold for, and he really bombed those interviews. And that's really all there was to it. I mean,
yeah, that's exactly what I was hearing too, which like it seemed like he thought that he was going to be taken significantly higher than what happened, like than he was. And it seemed like which is wild to me, because the thing that I'm going to say is he knew going into this that there was only a few teams that were likely going to draft a quarterback, probably 5 teams that were looking for like a potential fringe starting quarterback, maybe, probably less. And one of them was 100% already off the board, taking Cam Ward. So you
see,
should
I think that's where you're wrong. I think that he brutally misjudged his hierarchy in this draft class because of what people were telling him. And
no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm saying that he like already thought that he was going to be one of those guaranteed like locks.
Yeah.
And he treated it that way rather than, hey, rather than treating it as if like teams weren't going to take him.
Mm-hmm.
So the mentality that he had going into these interviews was just completely wrong.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I definitely did not have him going that low. I believed that he was going to be like a later first round guy. I did think that somebody would like eventually try to trade back into the very end of the first round, like the Giants did with Jackson Dart. But what happens in the draft is like once those teams kind of begin to figure out who their quarterbacks are, like, and take a guy, you're just going to end up falling. And that's exactly what we saw happen to Shador, and couldn't have gone to a worse organization.
No doubt.
So
somebody who doesn't have much success with quarterbacks.
yeah, definitely not a great track record. Not the worst, but definitely not the best. And
Definitely not.
But yeah.
Do you have any other losers that you want to go over before we move on to some winners?
I will say that I had these two as losers. I had the Rams and the Vikings. I say the Rams not because of the trade that they pulled off with the Falcons, but just from like the personnel that they took. I would have loved to see them take an offensive lineman. I feel like they also took Terrence Ferguson, the tight end out of Oregon, a little earlier than expected. But then the rest of these guys just didn't necessarily like pop for me.
I guess the only argument that I have with the Rams is you're wrong, because the Rams, whoever they take, they just have benefit of the doubt at this point.
That's what I was going to say at the very end of this was, as of now, I look at this and I say, wow, I don't really love any of these guys. The likelihood of 2 or 3 of them hitting is pretty high. So, but I don't want to take that into account. I just want to take like fit versus like what they need versus what they took.
And last, that trade that they did with the Falcons, big losers of the weekend, probably the biggest losers.
Correct. Correct.
Getting an extra first round pick for that was insane.
Yeah, that
So
was
I think they pulled off the biggest heist. I think they pulled off the biggest heist, and at this point, like I said, whoever they take in the draft, they get the benefit of the doubt, at least for me.
I'm basing it off of who they drafted versus what I thought they needed. I'm not taking that trade into it because that trade was like crazy that even went through. But when you're the Falcons and you're desperate to improve your defense like they are, then I guess you do stupid things.
But the Falcons move around every single year.
They do.
Like, they're like a move away. They're like, we are literally
it's
like one
they do.
move away from like winning a Super Bowl. And it's just like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
They think that like them winning the NFC South is like them winning the Super Bowl.
And they can't do either.
Yeah. And then my other loser I had was the Vikings. Just like not really thrilled with. I think that Donovan Jackson will be fine, but I think they addressed guard in the offseason. I would have liked them to take a safety, like when we talked about the Vikings pre-draft needs. I didn't really think they needed to take Donovan Jackson, but odds are he'll probably end up being pretty good. So
yeah, and they have. That is one of the teams that if you want to talk about they did shit in free agency. I mean they
did a ton.
They're an old team in free agency, but I could agree with you to somewhat an extent.
I also didn't want to just take like the obvious ones. I thought the Browns was completely obvious, and then
well, people like the Browns draft, so that's why I doubled down. So that sucked.
Yeah, I thought it was bad. But all right, we can go on to the winners now.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first, actually. I have a winner as the Baltimore Ravens. They got Malachi Starks with their first pick, Mike Green with their second pick in the second, with their first pick in the second round. I didn't personally want the Eagles to take Malachi Starks, but I knew that he would probably end up going to the Ravens and it'll end up being a phenomenal safety to partner along.
Why would you not want the Eagles to take him?
I just wasn't super sold on him, and I did want like an edge.
Okay.
But he'll probably end up being phenomenal next to Kyle Hamilton in that secondary, and then Mike Green, who was a projected first round talent, I don't know what's currently going on, but some off the field issues fell to them in the second round. So I thought those were two great picks.
Yeah, I agree. That situation with the Ravens is definitely interesting. I mean, people get so fired up about it, and a lot of people were very like voice their opinion on like the Mike Green situation and some of the stuff. One, ultimately, I have no clue what happened, so I might be talking out of my ass a little bit, but if something happened and he was ultimately found like not guilty and nothing happened, like, are you going to hold that over somebody like for the rest of their lives? Like, is the first thing. And second, the people who are so fired up about it, you guys won't think about it once the season starts. Like, he could have a 3-sack performance and you'll be gassing him up. So
yeah,
I wish that the people who were holding him accountable in this situation would stand on business and hold him accountable and all of the league accountable for everybody who has stuff going on. I mean, you look at Tyreek Hill, who has something literally going on every other month.
He hits his baby mama or wife every other week.
Yeah, allegedly. And nobody says anything about
that. It's in the news for one day and then it's gone.
So I just think that like the social justice warriors who do that should hold him accountable the entire time. Me and Noah, and I'm not speaking for Noah, but me myself, I don't know about it enough of it on this side or the other to comment on it. But I'm just saying, if you want to be the person to like cast a stone at him, then keep that same energy the entire time. But
yeah, I don't know either if it's alleged or if it's still pending trial or what's happening. But as far as football goes, he was a first round guy that fell to the second round to a good team.
Yeah, I mean, but the Ravens keep doing the Ravens things. They get really high IQ players who are going to be really good pros, and that's exactly what they did. And they got 2 guys at the top of the draft who I think are going to be immediate impact starters for them.
Yeah. Yep.
Also,
Do
one
you
of my
have them?
winners, so I'm going to
Yeah.
cross them off.
Yep. All right. Hit me with another one of yours.
Yeah, I mean the most obvious one on the board, the one who's super under discussed, who it seems like no matter what they do at this point, I don't think anybody is going to really give them the credit that they deserve, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. They go and they get Walter Nolan, who Walter Nolan going into the draft was ranging anywhere from being a top 10 pick to a top 20 pick. Like he could have went as early as the Saints, and it turns out the Cardinals were like, he is not getting past us at 16, and if he's there at 16, we're taking him. So I think that they go and they grab defensive tackle, which you look at what they did, how they reworked this defensive line, and I think that this Walter Nolan piece was the final piece of the puzzle to fully build it out. And then the second pick of the draft, Will Johnson, who it, what I have heard is that they would have taken if Walter Nolan was not there at 16, the pick would have been Will Johnson at 16.
Yep, we
So the
did talk
fact that
about that.
he
Yeah.
fell the whole way back to 47 and they grabbed him. And if you've watched the draft videos and everything like that and everything that he said on the phone, that guy's hungry, ready to go. And then Jordan Birch, the defensive line from Oregon, he kind of reminds me the exact same way of like a Jordan Davis. Cody Simon, the linebacker from Ohio State, Denzel Burke, the corner from Ohio State, and then Keaton Crawford, the safety from Nevada. Apparently, he's like a complete. I was with Wise this past weekend, and Wise said that he's like a legitimate menace, like to society. I'm not saying that all these guys are going to hit for them, but I conservatively think that they got 3 starters on defense with their first 3 picks of the draft.
Yeah, I would have loved for Walter Nolan to fall to the Eagles. I think he's going to be such a beast. And then for them to get a first round arguably top 10 corner, like top 10 value corner in Will Johnson in the second round is a phenomenal job. I can't say I know too much about the rest of their picks, but I do know that the Oregon defensive line was very good last year, and had a couple guys drafted. So I would lean towards giving Jordan Birch the benefit of the doubt there as well, just because I know that that Oregon team was good, and they've had a couple good guys come out of that defensive line room in this draft.
Yeah, so like I said, I think the Cardinals are just going to be one of those teams who are undervalued at this point. But that draft, I mean, the first 2 picks alone has to be as some of the most solid picks that you can have in the draft.
All right, want to hear mine?
Let's do it.
The Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
Round 1, they took Tet McMillan. They addressed a need at wide receiver. They got younger, and they got a legitimate wide receiver 1 for Bryce Young. Second pick was Nick Scorton, edge out of Texas A&M, and their third pick was Princely. Don't know how to say his last name. Edge out of Mississippi, and then their fourth pick, was Trevor Etienne, running back out of Georgia. I love those 4 picks. And then their 6th round pick was Jimmy Horn out of Colorado, wideout. I understand that's a 6th round pick, but watching Jimmy Horn at Colorado, he was pretty electric at times. So whatever, you get him in the 6th round. If he hits and ends up being your 3, 4, whatever, you're in a good spot. If not, whatever, you spend a 6th round pick on him. But I love those first 4 picks for the Panthers. I love Tet. I think he's going to be great in that Carolina offense. I think Bryce Young has finally started to figure it out. And then Nick Scorton and Princely, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say his last name, were 2 pretty popular guys throughout this draft process. And that Mississippi defensive line, it was Princely and Walter Nolan, and those dudes were just wrecking havoc all season. So I love those picks for the Carolina Panthers. I thought they did a great job.
I have no qualms with that. I agree with you. I think they did everything they needed to.
All right, nice.
um, the next team that I have on my board here is, I mean, for as much shit as the Dallas Cowboys got the last
Yeah.
the last 24 hours and this draft, I mean, there's nothing that you can say. They go and they get Tyler Booker, somebody who people were like, he's gonna fall, he's gonna fall. The Cowboys are like, no, this guy is too special to let fall. We're grabbing him. Then they go and grab Donovan Ezra who a lot of people thought that he'd be gone in the first round. I love
Yep.
having somebody who is like slippery, productive pass rusher. And I think that he's like a good pairing with Micah Parsons. They have a guy. They just need somebody else who can go in there and be a rotation piece, or not the guy who needs to go and get 20 sacks in a season. Then a guy who might have been my favorite corner in the entire draft, they got Siobhan Ravel, who is just like a long outside corner who has elite instincts, who you add them to the corner room with Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland. And I just think that's one of the nastiest corner rooms in the entire NFL once that guy's healthy. And then they add Jaden Blue, who gives the Cowboys just like a nasty top tier speed type dude who can go out of the backfield and be a guy. I think that what they're doing is completely underrated at this point. And then we can talk about the trade too. They went and traded today for George Pickens to even round out that wide receiver room a little bit more. I mean, the Cowboys, who were a laughing stock probably a month ago when free agency was over, it's very quiet for the Dallas Cowboys haters right now, because I think that they're shoring up to be like one of the nastiest teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I had the Cowboys as a winner on my board as well. They drafted the Zach Martin replacement in Tyler Booker. They got a steal at edge with Donovan Ruaku from Boston College, who had first round grades on him. Siobhan Revel, corner from East Carolina, like you said. I was surprised to see that he even made it out of the second round. I thought that he would have been a late first, middle to early second round guy. So
I'm with you.
I really loved what they did. And then today, obviously, the George Pickens trade, they finally got somebody to pair up with CeeDee Lamb. I think they've done a great job this offseason. It started off a little rough, I won't lie, but
it did. But I mean,
the draft, and the Cowboys usually draft pretty well. But since then and this trade today, I think that they've put themselves in a great spot for next season.
Completely agree with you. I think that they're going to be. I said it today. I tweeted it. Dak MVP season loading. I love Dak. I can't wait to watch him operate.
Yeah, now he has those two wideouts, Jake Ferguson. I like that trio
Tolbert.
right there. Tolbert. Yeah, I like what they got going over there. Yeah.
So, hey, it's you, brother.
All right. My last one, sneaky winner, the Seattle Seahawks.
Boo.
I give them a lot of shit, but I like what they did. I wanted them to take the guard from North Dakota State, Gray Zabel. They took the guard from North Dakota State, Gray Zabel.
I agree with that.
In the second round, they had two picks. They got Nick Amanawari, the safety out of South Carolina, who I really liked and who I thought could be a first rounder. They did take him like right away in the second round, so like almost. And then Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami, who was like almost a wide receiver at the tight end position to add to that offense. And I know that I don't love the Cooper Kupp thing because he's definitely older, but like I think he adds another element to the offense for them. And then sneaky Jalen Milroe in the third round. Who knows what Jalen Milroe is going to end up being, but I don't hate taking him in the third round. Sam Darnold is likely not going to be your long-term starter in Seattle. So maybe seeing if a guy like Jalen Milroe can pan out. I don't hate it.
He won't, but
I don't think so either, but I think it's worth a third round pick. late
Yeah,
third round pick.
I disagree. I think that they obviously got Gray and Nick Amanawari, who I think that if anybody knew what to do with him, I think probably Mike McDonald would be the guy to be able to do that. So I agree with those two picks for sure.
Mm-hmm. Who's your final winner?
I have a few more. Patriots,
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
crushed it.
Yeah,
Obviously, I mean,
I
good
think
for
they did a
them.
great job too.
They understood the assignment, and same thing with the Chargers. I think the Chargers understood the assignment. People like shit on the Chargers draft for whatever reason. Don't get it. Same situation. They need guys who are going to actually play offense for them.
Yeah, I liked what they
And
did.
let's just keep it real. Najee Harris was a 1-year option for them. He's going to be a backup to Marion Hampton. So
Dude,
same situation there.
I saw a picture of Amari Hampton standing next to Jim
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh,
It's huge.
and he looked like that picture of Derrick Henry and
Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram.
Yeah, he's huge.
Dude, he is a big dude, man. I did not realize how big he was. Pause.
Yeah.
But but I that's sick. I think that's a really good fit for them. I know.
Patriots, obviously, I just think, like I said, you've thrown a. I mean, this has been what I've been beating the drum on all off season. If you have adults in the room, you take a Will Campbell. If you have adults in the room, you take a Travion Henderson, you take a Kyle Williams, you take a Jared Wilson. Like they just got guys who are going to play for them. Then that's just because you have Mike Vrabel in the room now and not a bunch of idiots. But the last team that I just feel like need to get a big shout out that I feel like at this point is just gone way too under the radar. You have the goal when you're going to draft every single year is to go and get the best possible player available. And the Jacksonville Jaguars traded up and got maybe the most special talent that we may have ever seen coming through the NFL draft. And I thought what James Gladstone did, being like, this is my first year. I'm young. I'm a GM. And if I'm hanging my hat on anybody that I'm ever going to take as my first time as a GM, I'm taking Travis Hunter and I'm going to get him and I'm going to just live with that because if he doesn't work out, something brutally went wrong. Yeah. And so he went and got the Shohei Ohtani of football and something that we've never seen before. And I absolutely love that move. And I feel like it kind of got downplayed in the entire grand scheme of the coverage for the draft this year.
Well, yeah, because everybody was talking about the Shedeur Sanders fall from grace, but the Jags getting Travis Hunter was such a sick thing that I feel like I know that there was rumors going about before the draft of like the Jags are looking to do this, move up and grab a weapon. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Tet? Is it going to be Genty? Like, no, it's going to be Travis Hunter. Like, and I didn't expect it. I didn't expect them to move up that far, and I didn't expect them to get Travis Hunter. So like that was really cool, and especially because of how like so much stuff gets like leaked and ends up just being like whatever, nothing really comes from it. It was cool to like see something big like this come to fruition, and it sucks that it just like didn't get that much credit because it was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. And shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who since Shad Khan has taken over the organization, they've been last in wins, but I still have hope for this team. I still have hope for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I still think that they could be a good organization. And I love that this was the big first move that this regime made. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter on the same offense. I mean,
nasty. Remember when Brady said he was going to primarily be a corner?
Yeah, and then literally 15 seconds after the draft, it was like, yeah, we have a vision for him to play wide receiver.
Which is what I said when we did the Travis Hunter video probably a year ago. I said that I would have him play wide receiver. Now that could be just straight wrong, and he could end up being a significantly better corner. But I will hang my hat on that one.
Really random. They took Caleb Ransall, corner out of Tulane. I think he's a good player. Yeah. They took Wyatt Millum, an offensive tackle out of West Virginia. I think he could be like a 78 overall right tackle in Madden that you
They have him listed as a guard
in the late round, whatever he's going to play.
Yeah.
And then a very
78 overall.
sneaky pick that they took, who is the next Devon Achane, is Byshawn Tootin from the running back from Virginia Tech. He is going to be electric in that offense. Don't sleep on him. He's going to be one of those guys in fantasy that pops. But just know that I was here first and told you.
So it's ETN and Tank Bigsby and Byshawn Tootin.
Yeah.
What a name.
Yeah, he's tough. If you don't know Byshawn, go watch a 10-minute YouTube video and you'll be like, yeah, he's Devon Achane 2.0.
I'll have to. I will say, I don't know how good of a pro Jack Kaiser will be, the linebacker that they took from Notre Dame, but like he was low-key a menace at Notre Dame. And if he does end up translating, I think he could be good in the NFL. But we'll see.
I completely agree with you.
But other than that, you get to like these 6th and 7th rounds, like unless it's somebody that you specifically had an eye on going into it, or it was a guy that like really, really fell, I feel like there is like not a ton to say about some of these super, super late round guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless if you're like a liar.
Unless you're Mel Kiper.
Unless if you're a liar. I mean, the Mel Kiper situation at the draft was just, I really think that there should be a conversation like with him had at some point to be like, hey, like, dude, like you can literally like never do that shit ever again. Cause that was like out of line.
I've never seen somebody go to at bat for another man more than Mel Kiper did for 3 days straight.
At some point too, like I get that you might have liked the guy and shit, but at the same time too, it's like, dude, like he's not going. So like, don't like be
every pick they talked about it.
Like, don't be like shocked that like he won't like be there. You know what I mean? Like, just it's just like ridiculous.
And it took away from like some of these other guys' moments of like getting drafted. Because Mel Kiper wanted to just talk about why Shedeur Sanders wasn't getting drafted. Like, I remember watching on Saturday, I forget who it was got drafted, but they didn't even talk about him because they were too like concerned about why Shedeur wasn't getting taken. And I'm sitting there watching, and in the back of my head, I'm saying, well, I want to know what's going on with this guy. I don't care that Shedeur didn't get taken here. Like what's the background with Darian Porter or Jack Beck? Like I want to know about those guys that just got drafted. I know Shedeur Sanders. I know that you're mad that he didn't get taken, but at a certain point you got to give it up.
Yeah, you got to give it up. It happens. And the fact that really the worst part about it is like it just automatically like turned into like a racial thing, and that sucks. And I don't know, like whatever side that you're on, one side or the other, like it still sucks that it has to turn into something like that when I don't know. I don't think that there was any racially charged ideas that is the reason why Shedeur fell. So it just sucked that that's like what it turned into, like on like a platform like X, for example. Like, it was like, why does it have to turn into a racially charged conversation when it might not be about that at all? And like you said, it took away from a lot of successful guys' biggest weekends of their entire lives because the main broadcast was just too concerned about where Shedeur Sanders was going to go.
Yeah, it sucked for all those other guys that kind of missed out on their moment. Like I know that the picture of Cam Ward basically came out of him like crying, and they didn't even talk about it because they were just so worried about where Shedeur Sanders was going. Like that's a huge moment, being the number 1 overall pick, and like that's something that you work your entire life for, and for them to just like throw it out the window almost kind of sucks.
I mean,
and I will say the other thing that absolutely sucks is every single reporter, every single NFL analysts basically tweeting out the picks before they even show up on TV.
I mean, yeah. I mean, then you can't get on social media.
I know. I've stopped doing it, but once the night is over and I'm going back through my timeline and I'm seeing them, I'm like,
that's no one's fault other than the way that the NFL draft is set up. The picks are way too long in between.
It takes so long.
Bro, I'm letting you know, bro, there was a point during the first round where I was 5 picks ahead of where the broadcast was because of Anthony.
Yeah.
So that's not anybody's fault other than the way that it's set up for the NFL.
Yeah.
Like
I know, but as a fan, it stinks.
And that might be a night that you have to turn your phone off. If you if somebody really enjoys likes watching the draft, I don't really care that much. Honestly, it is what it is. Like I would rather have the picks just get texted to me before they even come out. But yeah, I'm with you on that. But that's what I think Goodell actually said something about that after the draft. And was like, yeah, we need to trim down the time in between picks. I mean, there's no reason why it should take that much time. Everybody's ready.
Yeah,
especially the first round.
The first round should not take 4 hours.
No.
That went until it started at 8 and it went until midnight and there was 32 teams picking.
Yeah.
And I understand you need a couple minutes to figure out if somebody wants to orchestrate a trade. But for God's sake, you don't need that many minutes for every single pick, man. And if you know who you're taking, just submit your pick. There's no reason to wait 8 minutes.
They are submitted.
So then it's the NFL that just dilly-dallies.
Yes.
I'm tired of the dilly-dallying.
Listen, bro, I'm completely with you.
But I did have to stay off Twitter because of that. But in years past, it would get ruined because I would get the updates on my phone because I would want updates from guys when trades and stuff were happening. And then I never turned them off in years prior. And so I would get the notification of, this is who the Raiders took at 5.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, that kind of sucks because I do genuinely enjoy watching it, but there's no reason it should take 4 hours. And that should realistically take 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I stand beside you on that.
Thank you. That means a lot.
That's all I got, brother.
Yeah. Good first one back. Get back to getting into the swing of things. So when do you want to start doing
I don't know yet.
Season preview? Because I do feel like we need to.
I don't know yet.
Maybe pick a date for that. But
have to think about it.
Whatever.
Have to think about that one.
Works for me.
All right, boss.
White clouds blowing out when we max 4-5, not the size, but it could go high.